Much of the criticism of the lending industry right now, but the fact remains these companies do help Americans buy their homes, their cars, finance college, sometimes start businesses.
So the question is, credit in America, is this a force for good or evil? Let's throw this one to our Fox panel. And Pat Powell, why don't you take it first? Credit cards. A lot of people use them. And
I hate them.
Really?
I absolutely hate them. I do think they're evil, and I do. But I think,
Dave Ramsey will love you for that.
But I think in this regard, Congress needs to blame themselves, because when they changed the bankruptcy law in 2005, meaning you could not wipe out your bad debts if you went into bankruptcy, you were going to carry them out of bankruptcy with you. What they did is they created brain dead lending with the credit card companies, and so credit card companies brain dead lending. They don't have to think about it because they can just keep raising the rates. And you're never going to get rid of this. You know, I've seen credit cards that are up to 30% because some poor schlub had a problem and couldn't make a payment on time. He gets hit with a $39 fee, and he gets his credit card interest up to 30%. He will never pay that off. Congress has to do something about it.
Peter?
Well, you know, I agree. I mean, I think credit card or consumer debt in general is a cancer in a free market economy. I mean, you don't want people borrowing money to consume. You want savings to be made available to businesses and entrepreneurs to make capital investments, because that increases economic growth in the long run. And when you borrow money to invest, the investment has a return, and it enables the business to repay the loan. But if someone borrows money to buy a television set or take a vacation, there's no asset, there's no income that they acquire. They can only repay the debt out of diminished future consumption. So we're basically sowing the seeds of our own demise when we borrow to consume.
But Victoria, I had a person on Scoreboard, this wonderful, sweet mother, who started a business that became very successful. She went to the banks to get money to start the business. They wouldn't give her a loan. She maxed out on her credit cards to get enough cash to start the business, and a big success. So sometimes it works.
Right, but that's an investment, right? You're not just using your credit card, as Peter said, to go buy, you know, a great flat screen TV. Not all debt is created equal, and I think the consumption debt, when you just take out a credit card to buy something that you want today and not tomorrow, I think that is so dangerous. You know what I did a couple months ago that felt so good was I shredded all of these credit cards and called to cancel them. I had about 10 credit cards that I never used. You know, for Macy's, I signed up to get 15% off, and that affects your credit score. If you have lots of credit cards, that makes you a more risky customer in the eyes of lenders.
Victoria, do you have video of that, of you shredding them? That's the thing. People always talk about cutting up their cards, and, you know, to see it, Gary Kalpalm,
shredding was more satisfying.
Shredding is very dramatic, but it comes to that point for some people. But David's point, credit cards have enabled certain people to reach certain goals in their life, and I'm wondering if there isn't a halfway midpoint where we could meet with the minds and come up with an idea that works, where people can responsibly use credit cards.
Well, Liz, it always comes back to individual responsibility. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that live not paycheck to paycheck, but credit card to credit card. And that's something that has to be, look, that is the individual responsibility. But I have to tell you, a lot of these credit card companies, they're predators. They know you're behind. They'll send you a second credit card just to use for the first one, so you pay bigger fees. Now, as far as Congress getting into it, I have to tell you, for me, the bigger issue is full, fair, and timely disclosure when it comes to resetting rates and fees like that. And I have to tell you, Einstein and Stephen Hawking can't figure out the language. That's number one. And if they do, it's at the bottom of the statement, and then you need Superman vision to read that type of stuff. So I believe the credit cards are doing an injustice to the consumer by not showing everything out up front in bold letters.
Okay, but Pat Powell, I have been to countries in Latin America where they try to put limits on interest rates for certain credit institutions, whether it's credit cards or whatever. It fails miserably. When the government tries to put price controls, if you will, on credit, they fail just as badly as price controls on anything else.
Yeah, the problem is not the interest rate. The problem goes back to the bankruptcy law. If you allow people that have gotten so far over the line that they will never recover to declare bankruptcy and get a second chance, lenders will have to pay attention to who they give credit cards to, and they will have to lend responsibly. This was a 2005 change that was lobbied heavily by these same people who are now testifying before Congress and saying, not our fault.
Is Congress on the mark, Peter, by focusing on the credit card companies and saying, you guys are pulling some fast ones on consumers?
Well, I think, the basic problem goes back to similar to what we're having with subprime. The reason that there's such an aggressive market right now for credit card debt is because Wall Street's been buying it up and securitizing and selling it to the Chinese and the Saudis, just like they were with mortgage debt. Yeah, they're securitizing credit card debt. All this consumer debt is being repackaged by Wall Street, tranched up, sliced and diced, and sold around the world. And when these loans go bad, and the people realize that, we're not going to get paid back, just like the subprime mortgage crisis, we're not going to get paid, then the credit crisis is going to hit home, and people are going to stop.
Well, on that cheery note, we got to